Welcome to Machine Minds, where technology and humanity meet. I'm your host, Greg Terrusian, founder of Samson Rose, a recruiting and search business focused on the robotics and AI industries. The Machine Minds show is where we dive deep into the intricate world of robotics and artificial intelligence. As a staffing industry leader with a passion for the frontiers of technology, I'm pleased to be bringing you intimate conversations with the founders, investors, and trailblazers who are at the heart of the AI and robotics revolution. In each episode, we dig into their journeys, the applications of the products they're working on, and the breakthroughs that are shaping our future. Join us as we explore how these machine minds are transforming the way we live, work, and understand our world. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a tech enthusiast, or just curious about this amazing field, you'll learn something new with each episode. Let's delve into the extraordinary. Let's delve into machine minds. I'm your host, Greg Terrusian, founder of Samson Rose, and I'm here today joined by our guest, Felix Alvarez, who's Chief Product Officer and a bunch of other things at Vebu. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. The man, the myth, the legend. I'm very excited about this episode. Bit of background, I've known Felix for over a year now. We've worked together a number of times. I helped him get into his current role. But what was most interesting to me when I first found Felix and we started talking was his very unique, very interesting background, the companies he's worked for and the projects he's worked on. So I'd love to start by handing it over to you, Felix, to just give us a overview of yourself, your career, and how you got to this point, and then we'll dive into your current role.
Yeah, so I'll try to be brief, but it's 27 years of doing what I do. So 27 years of product development experience. I'm a mechanical engineer by trade. So I graduated from Georgia Institute of Technology back in 1995. Just dated myself.
Yes, you did.
But one of the things that was very interesting when I graduated is I wanted to understand and have breadth of engineering. So I started in actual aerospace. So I have actual parts that flew in the space shuttle, actually Space Shuttle Enterprise. Then I worked on the F22 Raptor, which currently flies, Joint Strike Fighter. And then I found that aerospace was a bit slow to the way I wanted to move. So then I went into a startup in Florida. And that startup actually allowed me to work on trains, submarines, toys, high-powered lasers, boats, accident reconstruction, furniture,
Wow.
and even toothbrushes and a water timer.
Anything you didn't do?
So that was the fun part. It's like they were a consulting company, and they truly allowed me to do a lot of things, and that's kind of what brought in the desire to have breadth in what I did. So then I went into a what I would call the 15-year binge into consumer electronics. I started at Motorola, so I worked on the public safety radios first. Then I went into mobile devices, where basically when I think about my career, one of the proud moments that I have is that I wanted to have a large impact on the world. And frankly, when I started, it's like if I get 10 million people to use my product, that would be great. Then I blew by that with the Motorola Razr when I helped a little bit there. And then I said, well, it looks like I blew through that. Half a million people. And then from Motorola, I kind of moved into HP and Hewlett Packard, working again on smartphones back then. I was also did my first foray in robotics. So I was a mentor.
While at HP?
Yeah, no, while at Motorola, actually.
Oh, okay.
I was the mentor and team leader for Sigma Cat's Team 108. And we won a regional. We always showed up very well for those 8 years, but that was where my passion for robotics kind of got built, because it's like, 6 weeks, here's a problem, build a robot for it.
Yeah, so, they just throw you straight into it, don't they?
Yeah, they throw you straight in it, and it has the constraints and everything to kind of almost simulate real life. So yeah, then after Motorola, I went into HP. There, I basically wasn't making a lot of impact because they were nascent in their business, and then I went to Apple. At an Apple, as you guys know, they ship a lot of stuff. Uh, so there, between Motorola, HP, and Apple, I ended up getting to about 1.5 billion things into market
Wow.
over 20 years of career at that time. Um, and there, one of my claims to fame is if you own an Apple Watch, I'm one of the three inventors.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Wow, that's so cool. I didn't even know that.
yes, it was Matthias Schmidt and Albert Golko and myself kind of developed it. And if you go to Patently Apple, you'll find my name there. It was a big
Amazing.
thing in my family because it got picked up by the news, and then my name actually even showed up in Puerto Rico, where I'm from.
That's so
Uh,
cool.
so my dad kept a clipping on Puerto Rico. It's like Puerto Rican engineer comes up with the Apple Watch. Um, then I kind of moved into Google. There I was employee number 5 of what is now like a 3,000 plus hardware team. I personally had the stake of building that team probably to about 800 people
Wow.
over 5 years. Then I moved into my second foray in robotics, which was Waymo. And you guys can see right here, this is
Hmm.
the Firefly. So I actually worked on all their vehicle platforms except for the original Prius, and now the EV that they're working with that Canadian company, I believe. Um, but the Chrysler Pacifica, I owned all of the top sensors, and then on the Jaguar I-Pace, I was the crazy one that tackled sensor cleaning. And it's kind of cool to see it now driving around in LA. Then I actually worked at Facebook slash Meta. In there, I was working on connectivity, so anything that connects you to the internet. And again, at that point, I was trying to see, okay, I got to 1.5 billion things. Can I get to half of the population of the Earth before I die? So at this point in time, I'm on that journey where
Yeah.
my hope is that whatever I work on, whatever product I end up shipping out, I get to impact half of the population of the Earth. So there, because I was working on space stuff, so I was working on low Earth orbit satellites. Um, we ended up getting acquired by Amazon Kuiper, and so there I completed. We're having worked at Amazon, Apple, Google, and Meta. So everybody kind of does, why didn't you work at Microsoft? Well, I almost did, but I did not do so because that was the Steve Ballmer era, and let's just say that the culture wasn't a fit for me.
Right.
And that's when I found Greg, because I think one of the best stories that I have is what he told me. It's like, I couldn't believe when I saw your LinkedIn profile that you worked at those 4 places. So it was kind of funny because it's like,
Yeah.
did he truly work in there?
Honestly,
And
when I first found you, and I was telling a friend or a colleague, and I was like, I found this guy, but I'm like, I don't know if his profile is real because it's so rare. Like you giving us your background as well. You jumped from, you're in robotics, then you're in consumer electronics, and then connectivity and vehicle and all of that stuff, and that obviously speaks a lot to you as a professional and your ability to understand all of these areas and communicate that to the companies, but then to deliver on it. And it's not like these are short stints, right? It's not like you've been at each company for like 6 months. They're like long-term projects and long-term builds. So at first I was like, this guy probably isn't real and it's a profile that people are just using to get attention. But yeah, having a chat with you and you communicating all of that, just it was a really great fit for especially what we were looking for at the time.
yeah, and just to kind of finish there, that's where Greg basically kind of pointed me to where I currently work, which is Vebu Labs. We're a food automation company. And it's kind of interesting because I love food. I'm the cook at home. Um, and robotics, man, what a marriage. Uh, We kind of try to democratize food preparation and food automation. And that's where, quickly in the past year, worked on several things from pizza making robots to boba making robots to farming robots, um, to coffee making robots. And then we have one that is kind of interesting that at first, when the engineering problem got placed on our lap, we said, yeah, we might be able to do two of those operations. And if anybody has ever made guacamole, they can tell you how interesting it is to deal with avocados.
Yeah.
Let's just say we got to the point where we're almost at the point of hopefully a one, in the near future, automate guacamole making.
No way.
Fresh
Really?
guacamole. Yeah.
Wow, that's an achievement for sure. Because you need to talk more about that. How does the robots identify ripe avocados, ready ones, not squish them completely to a pulp before they're even started prepping?
Uh, uh,
Because I love
uh,
making guacamole, but
Believe me, and it is a process, but fresh guacamole right there in
yeah,
front of you, made by a robot. So that's the goal.
that's really cool. That's very cool. I can't wait to see that and sample it. Okay, great. Well, thank you for the background. You obviously have a very unique perspective, I'd say, from speaking to so many people in the industry. You've got that perspective from the large corporations, obviously, even their kind of skunk works, initial startups within a large corporation projects, and now very much a startup with Vebu, and the areas that you're working in, right? Because there's a lot smaller scale, but I know we can't talk about it too much, but you guys have some big partnerships, big brands that you work with, and helping on the automation side there as well. So, what do you really see as the next wave of opportunities and also adoptions for food tech, robotics within food tech, and you obviously touched on agriculture tech as well, ag tech there. Where do you see that going in the next sort of year to 3 years?
Thing is, as the pandemic kind of ended, you
Mhm.
ended up with this perfect storm of things getting accelerated. Because at one point in time, probably food tech would have not been something in, you know, a McDonald's radar or a Ruth Chris radar, just because to think about it. But now with labor shortages and also bottom lines being affected, because automation is
Right.
not solely about the labor, because I think people always kind of associate it with that. No, it's about bottom line growth, efficiency, quality, um, speed, yield that you can get when you have a repetitive task that a robot can do at a much faster pace and help the human be able to do more. And that's one of the things that we say, help the human do more. So where I see things is and you have some repetitive tasks in there that people don't like dishwashing. A dishwasher lasts about 42 days. So
Right.
every 42 days, a dishwasher gets replaced because it's not the most fun work in the back of house of a restaurant. Also, if you think about drink drive-throughs, delivery that now has become a big thing, is it's not like the restaurant added additional staff to take about all the digital orders. No, they don't. So the problem that you have is, how does automation help those restaurants fulfill those orders? Because if you talk to these restaurant operators, that tell you, I'm leaving 30 to 40% business basically in the cloud because the people makes the order, but I can only fulfill these many. So
Mm.
automation comes in and actually can help you. Even one big brand, Chipotle, has a digital make line. Why? Because they have the front line that works with people coming into the restaurant, but they have so many digital orders that if they didn't make that second make line, they again were leaving money on the table. And as you know, Chipotle is one of the QSRs that have the best margins in industry. So that's where I see us kind of like jumping in, because first you got to get people to understand how you can get operations at a restaurant to where you can get bottom line growth, and that labor shortage that you have that is just keeps increasing, to then understand the next thing, which is in 5 years, how do you start automating the farm? Logistics, because right now you have automated farm equipment. There's plenty of companies working on that. You got big trucks, big things that, big tractors that take care of harvesting and all that. But after that, there's still a lot of human labor to pick, or in some cases, sensitive fruit, to packaging, to then getting it delivered, to then get it inspected, to then get it into the restaurant, to get it to you. So there's still a lot that automation can do. So we're here for a big journey, and we always call it seed to fork.
Seed to fork. I like that. I like that. Yeah, I mean, you touched on a lot of really good points there. But on the farming stuff, I was at CES in January, and John Deere were displaying a lot of their, crop autonomous vehicles and robots for crops and farms, and the size and scale of those things, it's wild. But also people think about those companies, even those industries are pretty old school or archaic, very manual, but they are leading in a lot of ways this technology and the usage of the technology and adoption. Because people, I think when people think about a farm, they probably don't think about it as being very tech centric or adopting technology too much, but the need is there, right?
Yeah, and what people forget is that most of the people are concentrated on autonomous vehicles because it's a $1.7 trillion industry, right? How you move goods, it's basically how the economy works. If you think about how much food actually moves, it is actually an extremely large component of that $1.7 trillion. So when you think about food automation, it's not only the fact of making the food, farming the food, is also the logistics of it, not only in the sense of large trucks or vehicles that deliver your food around, but how they get stored, how you track inventory, how you track freshness, all that, which human beings currently do either on a spreadsheet or they do it manually on a piece of paper. Think about everything that can go wrong there. But automation can help on all of those fronts, and it doesn't have to, in essence, replace the human, but it can actually enhance the human.
For sure. Yeah, you also touched on the food prep side of things, which is huge. I don't know if you remember, I used to work for Sweetgreen prior to starting my own business, and a part of the onboarding there, regardless, I was obviously in corporate, I was leading talent acquisition, but they make you do a week within a restaurant, and they're a scratch kitchen in essence. Everything comes in from the farm, and you have to prepare everything. So food prep was such a suck of time, enjoyment, and also man hours, right? Because things like kale, for example, which was like the pain in the restaurant, because it was one of the leading products, but because it takes up so much room and it takes so long to prepare, you'd run out of it so often. So even I can imagine something like you mentioned, guacamole, if you're having a scratch kitchen and to make it there, and again, a leading product and stuff like that takes a lot of time and care and preparation. If you're able to automate something like that, your staff's productivity is going to be better, enjoyment is going to be better. You mentioned dishwashing, same sort of thing. Your retention will be better, and then the experience for the people and the customer is going to be better because they're going to have more white glove, hands-on service from the team.
Yeah, and I cannot stress how interesting it is when people talk about portion control, for example, or other things that a restaurant needs to do. That consistency is key, right? And when people go to a restaurant, that experience can be enhanced, and it doesn't. I always had a pretty good set of industrial one that told me something very interesting when it comes to products. It's like you got to make the engineering disappear. You got to make the engineering unobtrusive to what you're actually trying to do to the experience. And in food, even more, because you see a robot, you're just like, oh my God, a robot. And one of the things that we actually were able to achieve, especially with our pizza making robot, is that people associate a pizza making robot with a kiosk or a vending machine, and normally you associate that with low quality frozen product that really doesn't taste that good, and
Right.
it's like last ditch before you got to go to bed or something like that. I don't have time to prepare. Well, when you make a completely fresh pizza
Yeah.
assembled in front of you in under 7 minutes, um, and people kind of get it out, and after they cut it, it's like, this pizza came from that. It is one of the biggest feelings as a product developer that you want to have, because that is what you're trying to achieve. Is you're trying to make sure that people understand that you're doing fresh food, like you say, craft kitchen type of automation that allows high quality food consistently done, that you expect the same portion, the same quality, the same presentation. So that way it becomes, for you, it's like, I'm just eating food.
Yeah.
I don't care that the robot's there. And it was kind of funny because CDPH, or the California Department of Public Health, is one of the most difficult regulatory bodies in the country. And we've been working with them, and hopefully at one point in time get a variance approval. And to go through that process now, so that we build that know-how, is important, because automation is, you got NSF and other things, but you have to make the technology meet the standards that normally a human would when
Right.
they're doing food preparation. Because again, I think everybody knows about the Chipotle story, and how you want to make sure that you never get anybody sick. But those things, you have seen how they turned it around, where Chipotle is grade A's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And food safety is a core focus of their brand. We, as Vebu, and working on food automation, we want to make sure we also make it part of our brand, where you're going to make it a robot, but the robot is going to be very, 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 very food safe, so that you can
Yeah.
enjoy your food.
That's probably the best way of doing it, building that in from the start, because you see time and time again these startups that are in stealth mode, or they are in their little skunk works type environment, where everything that they do is almost in a vacuum, right? You want to hold your cards close to your chest. You don't want to let people know about the product. You build something that you think is amazing, and when you come to market, you either don't meet the regulatory requirements, or there's no need, or no one wants it. And it's exciting, again, in a vacuum, and there's core technology that is, but without working in parallel with market research, regulatory, customer feedback, things like that, sometimes, wasted effort. I don't know if you probably can't, but I saw the pizza making robot, and I was very impressed by the brand that you had partnered with for it as well, because their pizza is really great. So I don't think you can mention it, but I've seen it. It looks amazing. I know the pizza's great, and I'm excited for that to come out. But yeah, that's what you shared just then as well, about some of the regulatory side of things, and also adoption. Where do you see issues or potential roadblocks and hurdles within this space for your technology, or just technology in general in the robotics?
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of problems with that, because adoption comes from being able to, and laws don't write themselves very quickly. So believe me, after being in the self-driving car industry and understanding how long has it even taken to the point where we got authorized to charge for rides from where we were, it's been a 12-year journey.
Wow.
If you look at Waymo, and that is all because you have to navigate the political landscape and the regulatory constraints. Because again, everything has been written for humans.
Right.
And even if you look at NSF, they are at this point, all of the guidelines based on things that a human normally would see or do, or we be able to do, versus we've actually encountered a problem already where we said, wait, 3, 4, 5 log sanitation of a surface, right? That is, for those of you that are not technical, that means is 5 log is a kill step. Basically, you have fully sanitized the surface where there's no microbial growth. 3 log is basically what has become acceptable for consumption. 1 log is normally what you do when you clean it with water only. So because of what we've learned, UV light is a great sanitization step. But if you look at regulatory laws, they don't include it as a sanitation step. So now you have to not only show and get the data, but you need to convince the regulatory body that has been doing the same thing for 100 years, 50 years, however it is, to let them know that no, there's new ways for you to sanitize a surface. It doesn't need to be a chemical. It doesn't need to be heat. So those are one of the things that we need to overcome. The other part is, the definition of splash zones, of non-splash zones, because when you look at NSF, if you're in a splash zone, there's a whole bunch of regulations that things need to be covered and all that. That's because humans are kind of clumsy and we drop things, right? The robot tends to be a lot more repeatable when it comes to these type of motions, and precise. So is it truly a splash zone when the robot is moving at 2 RPM and can get it there without even spilling a single drop of a full cup through that? Probably one of the ones that is going to take time, but is also going to create cost barriers, because now what happens is you need to add features to your robot. Those features cost money. So the next kind of thing is, how do you also reduce that cost? Because for anybody that this is a surprise, food is not a high margin business.
Right. Okay.
So to add a robot, obviously it costs money. So being able to reduce that and make it more palatable is one of the things that we are personally working on. And in part comes from my 27 years of doing business. Is when I was at Motorola and I was an architect of, cell phones, those feature phones that you used to buy for $100 or $60, they're supposed to cost nothing to make. But in some cases, your margin was 1 cent, 2 cents, 10 cents. So you made it up in volume. So if you shipped 100 million things, you made, $10 million in profit. So that background is one of the things that every single time people kind of work with me, they tell me that it's unique, because I'm extremely cost conscious, because the technology should be able to make things more affordable, not pricier. And that's one of the biggest hurdles, Greg, because right now, if you look at automation, there's a lot of teams that, and things in the market that charge a premium. So for us to figure out how to build it at scale and in a cost target that allows bottom line growth and even improve margins for the food industry is something that we're paying a lot of attention to.
That's great. It's refreshing to hear, because you do see that, and especially with earlier stage companies, more so in the last couple of years, where capital is a lot more easy to come by, right? People are just throwing caution to the wind, spend whatever you need to spend to build it, get the team in place, etc. And then when it comes to actually commercialize it and sell it, it's just not feasible, right? There's no way of pricing it accurately, and you're just constantly burning money. So it's great to hear that you're doing that from the get-go.
One other thing is, what is the right automation? Because having worked at multiple types of products have given me like a unique perspective of when is automation actually a solution or not. And I always quote the Model 3 production hell, right? What happened there is, somebody decided, aka Elon, that full automation was the key to making a car. And I can tell you stories because I got a lot of people that I actually managed that worked at Tesla, and also some of the people that were leaders there. What they found is they needed to go from 100% automation to 40% automation or something like that. Don't quote me on that number, because I don't know exact number, because I don't work at Tesla, or I've never worked at Tesla. So because of that, they ended up causing them problems in the workflow because a human has their purpose, or something different than automation has their purpose in a particular operation. And there's 28 articulations to your hands. Just think about how much money that costs to do an automation, right? That's why grippers, you normally don't see hand grippers as much, because it's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of
Right.
uh, parts to be able to get those articulations. Also, you have eccentric movement as a human being. That's why robotic arms are so popular.
Hmm.
But are they the right solution for automation? One of the things that, the iPhone, it's highly automated, not one single robotic arm on that line.
It's interesting.
Why?
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Because the robot arm was made for a specific function. So it is good for that specific function, but it also comes at a expense for being able
Cost,
to,
yeah.
yeah. So I always look at it from a more holistic perspective.
Yeah, that comes with experience and knowledge, obviously. I think it's similar in the software world, right? When you're like, oh, what you have to have an idea about the whole array of tools to understand what is beneficial for which application and why, and cost saving or ability or scale or anything like that. And same with automation in terms of the functionality of it, for sure. I think cost is something that comes up a lot of the time because hardware is expensive at the end of the day, and we're seeing RAS models come in from certain companies, and like banks, or at least were fronting a lot of that in terms of credit lines to get that going. So from my pulse on the market, that's usually the biggest hurdle, even for companies to try it and test it and get feedback for the end, for the company that's actually developing it. It's a big hurdle, and the people that usually cover that are the manufacturer, the developer of the technology, which is a big burden to put on them. But I think you guys are in a great place with the partnerships you have and the already real world examples that you've got, and the whole heap of different brands, different applications, and different companies that you're working with. It's really cool to see the journey.
Yeah, we're working with some big brands that unfortunately
Yeah,
confidentially can't mention, but let's just say that the demand is pretty large, and then these corporates, it's not their main mission to automate, right? So when they find the right partner, they truly want to innovate in not only how they approach it, but who they invest in, or who they think they can get them to market. And that's kind of like the fun part where we are today, where some of that is accelerating because, unless you've been under a rock, there's been some very hefty macroeconomic forces going on right now that really created some. And I always make the joke: there's a reason it's called hardware. It's hard.
yeah, it's true.
Um, so being able to do that now, we feel kind of like we're at that junction point where we can truly take off. And um, like I mentioned always, is my life has always been as like I like product. I like people using the product. I like people giving feedback about how our team did with the product that we designed and developed for them. Um, so those kind of things are the things that make me wake up in the morning and feel happy and engaged and challenged.
That's great. That's great. Well, before we wrap up, let me know what the future holds or looks like for Vebu, your partnerships, your products, what you kind of envision happening over the next, let's say, 24 months for you guys, and where you think your team will be.
So the one thing that I gotta say is like we gotta scale, we gotta commercialize. I get antsy when I don't have products in the market. So we're truly focused on understanding, okay, what are the products that we can get to market? We worked on a very good strategy. That strategy has been validated by some of our partners and investors. which is cool. So you should see us in the next 2 months. If everything goes well and God forbid not a natural disaster happens, we should be able to get at least a couple products in the market that can truly start getting our footing. And also, as you build a brand from a startup perspective, it's easy when you're Google and you're saying, I'm going to build a piece of hardware. It's like, even just to make you an anecdote, I still remember my first cold call to a supplier when I was working at Google. And I said, yeah, I'm working on Google. I'm doing a consumer electronic device. I need and this was a call to Intel, for example. And they're like, Google? You guys, what? You guys are a software company. What are you doing? And that reaction was kind of interesting because when you're looking at a startup, you're basically in that same boat. It's like, you're doing food automation. Oh, wait a minute, who are you?
Yeah,
what are you doing? What experience do you have? So it's, right now we are kind of like past that point because we started getting some good with, momentum with some of our partners. And the hope is, again, in the next 2 years, get a couple of commercial products out so that we can get our brand out and also start automating the world when it comes to food. I can't wait until, my wife keeps asking me in some cases, it's like, okay, so you're making that big robot, but can you make it smaller so I can have it in the kitchen? When she saw the automated coffee maker, she's like, you mean that I can go into an app, order my coffee, and it would be ready? It's like, yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, so instead of making a store,
bring it home.
Can you make it for home? And like I said, honey, don't worry. When I get the point where we're up in the market and we're flying, I'll figure out how to miniaturize it so that we can go into people's kitchens.
That's great. All right. Well, amazing. Look, thank you so much for your time, Felix. I really enjoyed the conversation. I'm sure the listeners are going to enjoy learning about you, Vebu, and the space in general. Where can people find you or follow the company and find out more about your developments?
Yeah, so you go to vebulabs.com, and that's where you will find it. Obviously, in LinkedIn, we're there, although we're doing our kind of like rebranding there a bit because we used to be known as Waymaker Labs. But vebulabs.com, and you should be able to find us there. And looking forward to what the market would say once we get our products out.
Amazing. Thanks again.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.